Today I learned in 1991, Nintendo published a game on the Famicom Disk System in which a boy chases the devil through time. Themes touched upon include genocide, slavery, and possession. In fact, the last act of the game involves the player having to electrocute baby Jesus so that the devil will leave his body. Which, what? The question would be, has anyone translated this title to English yet? Sounds interesting. F Mother 3 localized this. I want to play the hell out of this. Nintendo can actually be fantastic at producing darker content without coming off as trying too hard to be mature. Earthbound, Majora's Mask come to mind. And the entire freaking Metroid series. And Eternal Darkness. Well, wasn't Eternal Darkness was another studio along the lines with them. So, checking into this a little bit further, this is from a channel called R&D Stranger. The Year of FDS, part 187, Time Twist. From 4 months ago and has about 3,000 views. Let's check it. Release July 26, 91. $20 price today. Nintendo developed, published. And it was this is the last game that ever released on the Famicom Disk System.
For most of these videos, I record for roughly an hour. I've got a tight production schedule, and an hour generally gives me an idea of how something plays and gives me plenty of coverage for the video. For Time Twist, I have almost 3 hours of footage. There's 2 reasons for that. First, this is a bit of a special episode.
This kind of reminds me of almost like a 2D version of Earthbound in the museum area.
Second, there's a bit of an infamous thing in Time Twist, and it's at the very, very end of the game. If I didn't feature it, people would be bringing it up, so I played the game all the way to the end. But before I get into Time Twist itself, there's important disk system news. Shortly before Time Twist was released, Nintendo announced that they were raising the prices on games that you bought through the disc writer kiosks.
Oh man, Nintendo having a long history of raising prices of games, apparently.
Taking your floppy in and having the game on it changed cost 500 yen before. The idea was that it would draw a few more companies into re-releasing their old games on the disk system, but that didn't happen. The only games that got the 600 yen pricing were the 2 Time Twist discs and the last 3 disk system games. Of course, Time Twist is interesting because it's not solely a disc writer game. It was, as I mentioned, released on 2 floppy disks, and they were the very last Famicom Disk System game released to stores. Both discs were released on the same day, unlike previous multi-disc releases where there was 4 to 6 weeks between the first and second half.
Nintendo wants everyone to forget about this game, clearly.
Original copies of Time Twist are
Have a good night, 40K Empress.
Incredibly rare. A few months before recording this, someone was shocked to come across a set of the floppies in a retail store. The shop wanted 25,000 yen, and that was for each disc. And this was a shop known for cheap prices, not an Akihabara tourist trap. Part of what drives the price on Time Twist up is that the game has become...
That's a really good point. LBC Andrew says, just use Google Translate on your phone, enable camera, it translates on the fly.
Infamous, controversial, and it's never been reissued in any form. Nintendo has locked Time Twist away in a vault so that no one can ever see it. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit here, but I think it's important to say this now. Nothing in Time Twist is really that bad. It's tone deaf, in multiple ways, in multiple places, and these moments are more, whoa, isn't that weird? Than, why would Nintendo do this? Time Twist is an adventure game in the style of Nintendo's 2 previous adventure games for the disk system. The menu of commands is pretty streamlined, it always eliminates unnecessary ones, and most object interactions are all placed under use. So if you wanted to drink water, you'd go to use, water, and then pick the verb drink.
I mean, to be honest, like,
It's a system that works pretty well.
The style and the art style and stuff, like, this is a game that I would have loved to play back in the day. Not even understanding the themes that it invokes.
There's also some mini-games that mainly take the form of classic puzzles, like figuring out how to get the right amount of water into a jar when none of your vessels are appropriately sized. As you might expect from the title, the plot of Time Twist involves a lot of time travel. And for some reason, the people that you meet will often quiz you on historical figures and events. So it'll help to have some knowledge there. Though these quizzers often ask you about things that haven't happened yet. How does this guy in 1428 know who Da Vinci is? Time Twist has about as much historical fidelity as your typical Ubisoft game.
Damn, Ubisoft catching strays. I was gonna say this is like, it sounds as terrible as Mario is missing here. With this kind of question and answer system, I was liking it up until this point.
So don't look to it for a lot of
Have a good night, modifiers.
historical accuracy. Now, I try to avoid getting too deep into the plots of adventure games in these videos. That's because if you're going to play them, you'll want to uncover the plot yourself. But Time Twist is special. To understand why it's a game that Nintendo will never, ever, ever release again, I have to go through the whole plot. So my recommendation here, it's a strong, memorable adventure game, and if you have any desire to play it, stop the video now and go do that. The game opens in the near future of 1995. At the start, you have an interactive fortune-telling session with a mysterious figure on your television. None of your answers here actually matter for the game, because at the end you always get the same fortune. If you go to the museum, you'll meet a girl. Then the fortune teller gives you the words to a spell to help you out. The most convenient museum is the Devil Museum, which, as we all know, is the hot place to pick up chicks.
Totally.
While waiting for the museum to open, you visit a neighboring house where an artist has been painting a portrait of the devil based on historical information.
And Netflix Forum was saying this was made by the team that made Zelda and Mario.
And the portrait looks just like you! Well, no time to figure out how that could be. Time to go to the Devil Museum. Inside, you do meet a girl, but then there's an earthquake. You chant the spell that the fortune teller gave you, but it turns out it was a trick. It's actually the spell to release the devil from the jar that he was imprisoned in. The devil takes over your body, trapping you inside its rapidly decaying body. The devil takes off with you in hot pursuit, and a physicist who happens to have invented a time machine lives on the other side of the museum, so the devil steals the time belt and plans to go back in time to kill all the children of God. You jump after him and find yourself in 1428 France.
This is crazy. Just the themes coming from Nintendo, who was so anti-religion in a lot of NES titles. Like, it's crazy. They made Konami change a bunch of the stuff in Castlevania with the religious references, among a slew of other game companies. That's crazy.
Immediately after you arrive, the devil's body breaks down and burns up, but you find that you can possess other people, and this sets up the pattern for the game. You find yourself leaping from life to life, striving to put right what once went wrong, and hoping each time that the next leap will be the leap home.
Seems like a lot of different gameplay elements, not just like a tiny little screen where you pick from stuff.
In France, your goal is to save Joan of Arc. She's being tortured by witch hunters, not the English, and will be crucified and burned.
Damn, this is getting pretty heavy for for an NES game coming officially from Nintendo. I wonder why they never revisited this one.
They like being really thorough. After rescuing Joan, you leap to 1944 Germany. As the devil in your body is hanging out with his best bud Hitler.
All right. Oh my god. I just had to screenshot this. This is going on X right now. This is crazy.
You're in the body of an American POW who keeps trying to escape. Eventually, one of the escape plans works, and you meet up with resistance fighters. While they're trying to get you to Switzerland, the devil sics Hitler on you, and your battle with him is the climax of the first disc. When Hitler fails to prevent your escape, the devil tells him when and how he'll die, and then it's off through history again. Disc 2 opens in the middle of a story where you're in ancient Greece. The devil's trying to kill off the gods, and you have to personally deal with Hades to save the life of a boy. Hades challenges you to identify 5 famous dead Greeks, some of whom weren't born yet when this part takes place. For correctly identifying them, you win the soul back and send the devil fleeing once more. Next, you wind up as a slave in 1864 America. After working all day for your master, the KKK arrives to burn down your house. I think this is the chapter.
Ooh. Whoa, buddy.
That really shows the loose grasp of history that they had. So at this point, Abraham Lincoln shows up to free you, and your master invites the president in and agrees to do what he says. But it's a trap. Your master is actually part of the KKK, and now they have Lincoln at their mercy. Rather than do something like shoot him in the back of the head, they trap Lincoln and the slaves on an island with a bunch of coyotes. And I think we all know this classic puzzle where you have to get Lincoln and the coyotes across the river without the coyotes eating the slaves or Lincoln eating the coyotes.
What kind of drugs were they on when they made this game?
With Lincoln saved, it's time for the final jump. You head to 4 BCE, where Yosef is very concerned that his new wife Maria has been cheating on him because she's pregnant and it's not his. As for you, well, you've leapt into their donkey. You have to work to keep them together, even though you can't talk. If you manage to do that, Maria will have her kid, and immediately afterward, the new family is visited by 3 wise guys. This is the moment that the devil's been waiting for, because one of the gifts they brought is the devil sealing bottle, and little Jesus will grow up to use that and imprison the devil within it. You stop him from destroying the bottle, and the wise men seal the spirit of the devil away inside it. That lets you finally recover your body and return to your own time. But there's one final time twist.
What?
You arrive in 1995 to find that the world has been destroyed.
Eric Kai is asking the real questions out here. So when does Yasuke show up? Hath Not Seen says this would be a banger of a horror game. I mean, no one's stopping an indie developer from loosely basing a future game off of this. Just saying.
A nearby bunker has the portrait of the devil from the beginning of the game, but the portrait's changed, and now it's Jesus. Jesus became the devil, so you have to use the time belt again, returning to where you just came from. Turns out the devil has possessed baby Jesus, and you have to engage in a boss battle against him.
Wait, what?
With Jesus defeated, you're bounced back to your own time, where you are stunned, but are meeting a girl in the Devil Museum.
What?
With Jesus, baby Jesus, you have to use the time belt again, returning to where you just came from. Turns out the devil has possessed baby Jesus, and you have to engage in a boss battle against him. With Jesus defeated, you're bounced back to your own time, where you are stunned, but are meeting a girl in the Devil Museum. An earthquake happens and she starts chanting a spell. You're trapped in a time loop, or time twist, going round and round with the devil forever. Even in Japan, the reaction to that last segment is, oh, maybe they went a bit too far. Though, like I said, I really don't think it's that bad. There's worse stuff in the infancy gospels. No one was really up in arms about the way Time Twist used religion. It's more of a side-eye. And of course, not everyone in Japan felt that way. Time Twist has built up quite a reputation over the years there as one of the wildest adventure games ever made. And I've said it a few times at this point, so I'll be brief. It's a good adventure game, and it's so weird that it's worth checking out. Even things that might possibly bother some people are just so absurd you can't take it seriously. This would have been one hell of a way for Nintendo to go out on the Disk System, but they do have one more game to go.
Wow. Wow. I'll tell you guys, like, this kind of stuff is so refreshing to see, where it's like, this is back in the day, like a time warp where you could just do whatever. There was no judgment. There was no journal mafia. There was no one stopping you from making a game of what you wanted to do, to the point of Nintendo taking insane risks. And just for them, it was Tuesday. Like, it was like not a big deal back then. That's crazy. Yeah, definitely no Sweet Baby Ink. Show this to Craig. I'm going to show this to a lot of people. This is crazy. Play it on stream, Sergeant Sapient. That might be a chore, trying to figure out what the hell I'm doing with all the language. It's also Japan, not US, but still. That's wild. That's wild. Kino Casino just liked my tweet on it. So yeah, they appreciate this. That's amazing. I wonder if there's a translated version. I'm not sure. I'm sure there will be at some point, though. Let me leave that there, because wow, that's definitely something.